the internet is buzzing with a new twist in one of the most unexpected legal battles in recent memory. In a development that left social media users stunned and legal analysts scratching their heads, Blake Lively has now subpoenaed a YouTuber with just one subscriber. Yes, you read that right, one single subscriber. It's a move that has sparked massive debate, confusion, and even concern over what this means for freedom of speech and the future of online commentary. What began as a high-profile defamation lawsuit involving names like Candace Owens has now morphed into something much larger, darker, and honestly surreal. Why would someone of Blake Lively's stature go after a nearly invisible content creator? Is this just a legal formality, or is there something more strategic or personal behind it? The optics are staggering. Some see it as overreach, others think it's a warning shot to every person with a phone and an opinion. This case has already involved major players, Hollywood insiders, lawyers with celebrity clients, and influencers with millions of followers. But now it seems no one is off limits. And this has people wondering, is this about justice or is it about control? Meanwhile, Candace Owens continues to make headlines with her fiery responses and public statements, creating a parallel narrative in this defamation saga. Her unapologetic approach has divided the public, but it's also raised critical legal questions. How much can someone say under the banner of opinion? When does commentary cross into alleged defamation? This isn't just about a lawsuit anymore. It's about influence, power, and who gets to shape the narrative, whether you're Team Lively or Team Owens, or just trying to understand how a YouTuber with one subscriber got tangled in a Hollywood legal whirlwind. This story is far from over. In fact, it might just be getting started. Let's break down every angle, every twist, and every possible implication. When news broke that Blake Lively's legal team had subpoenaed a small-time YouTuber with only one subscriber, many believed it had to be a joke. But it's not. The court documents are real, the dates are real, and the implications are even more real. On the surface, it might seem absurd or even comical, but to legal professionals watching closely, it points to a broader and far more calculated strategy. Silence all voices, no matter how small, that could harm your brand during a legal crisis. So who is this mysterious YouTuber? That's where the story becomes even more fascinating. This isn't a well-known commentator or a viral creator. This person had uploaded a handful of videos, most of them low-quality opinion-based commentary about the Lively Baldoni situation. One video in particular analyzed Blake's past public statements and compared them to her current legal claims. It was factual, calm, and didn't include any inflammatory language. Yet somehow it found its way into Blake's legal crosshairs. The legal filing referenced the video as exhibiting patterns of defamation, misrepresentation, and reputational harm. But many legal analysts argue that the content simply didn't rise to the level of defamation. So, why go after it? That's the question being asked across the internet. One theory is that this is a scare tactic, a way to establish a precedent, that anyone discussing the case can be roped into it. Another theory suggests that Blake's team is trying to control not just the major media outlets, but the entire narrative space, including the long tail of micro-influencers and low-profile voices. Public reaction was swift and brutal. Social media users began posting screenshots of the YouTuber's subscriber count, comparing it to the scale of the subpoena. Memes circulated showing David versus Goliath references with captions like "Imagine being sued by Blake Lively when only your cat watches your videos." But underneath the humor was something far more serious: fear. If someone this obscure could be pulled into a lawsuit, then who's next? Legal experts have weighed in, suggesting that while subpoenas can be issued to anyone with potentially relevant information, issuing them broadly or without a strong legal foundation can backfire both in court and in public perception. The term frivolous subpoena started gaining traction online, with some prominent lawyers questioning whether this would set a dangerous precedent of weaponizing litigation against dissenting voices, no matter how small. At the same time, others argue that celebrities have the right to protect their image and should be able to challenge false information regardless of where it comes from. If a false statement gains traction, even with a small viewership, it could snowball into something much bigger. Blake's team may be trying to prevent a ripple from becoming a tidal wave. From a legal standpoint, it's about establishing control early before the story can morph into something unmanageable. But here's where things start to intertwine. While Blake Lively is targeting lesser-known commentators, Candace Owens has been using her massive platform to go on the offensive. Owens, who was named in a related filing involving third-party statements and reputational harm, has been unapologetic. She's publicly challenged the basis of the defamation claims against her, calling them laughable and an attempt to silence political dissent. Her supporters rally behind her, claiming that if she's being sued for telling the truth, or at least expressing opinion-based commentary, then free speech is under siege. What makes this particularly explosive is the contrast between the two legal strategies. Blake's team appears to be methodically silencing dissent using formal legal tools like subpoenas to reel in critics both big and small. Owens, on the other hand, is countering with full public transparency, showing every document, every filing, and using it to build public support. And that's where the court of public opinion becomes just as important as the court of law. As more commentators, including lawyers, political analysts, and free speech advocates, get involved, the pressure on both sides increases. The line between public accountability and legal intimidation gets blurrier by the day. Meanwhile, YouTubers with even modest followings are watching closely. They're adjusting their content, using more disclaimers, softening their language, and clarifying what is opinion versus fact. The chilling effect is real. No one wants to be the next person to get a subpoena in the mail for a casual video filmed in their bedroom. Behind the scenes, there's speculation that Lively's team is also trying to root out the source of alleged leaks. Several of the subpoenas have included language that demands access to unpublished materials, drafts, and communication, suggesting the legal team is more concerned about information pipelines than actual defamation. The real question is this: what are they trying to hide, and what are they afraid will come out? This isn't about one video or one YouTuber anymore. It's about the precedent being set for how celebrities and their legal teams interact with the content creator community. Are we entering an era where fair use criticism and commentary will be litigated out of existence? Or is this just a temporary overreaction in a high-stakes legal war? As Blake Lively's legal team aggressively pursued its strategy of issuing subpoenas, the focus rapidly expanded beyond the YouTube underdogs to high-profile public figures. One of the most vocal and combative names drawn into the fray has been Candace Owens, who is never one to back down from controversy. And this time she's turning her courtroom involvement into a larger public campaign. Candace Owens, a conservative political commentator with a massive online presence, was allegedly named in a supporting brief by Lively's team. The claim suggested that Owens, through a string of public comments, had played a role in escalating misinformation surrounding the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni defamation lawsuit. Although not named as a direct defendant in the initial claim, Owens quickly became entangled in the broader media discourse, and her response was as bold as expected. From the moment her name was mentioned, Owens came out swinging. She immediately took to her platforms Instagram, Twitter, now X, YouTube, and her podcast, sharing screenshots of the legal filings and accusing Blake Lively of Hollywood-style censorship. In her words, this isn't about defamation, this is about controlling public opinion through fear. Owens even suggested that the legal actions taken against smaller creators were being used to send a message to larger influencers like herself. Her argument, echoed by many of her followers and some legal commentators, is that the lawsuit isn't really about falsehoods or damage to reputation, it's about controlling the public narrative. Blake Lively knows she's lost the PR war, Owens stated in one viral clip. Now she's just trying to burn the battlefield. And whether you agree with Candace Owens' politics or not, her commentary is touching a nerve. Across the spectrum of media and public discourse, free speech advocates are weighing in. Civil rights attorneys are dissecting the legality of using subpoenas to compel creators to hand over drafts, personal communications, and private emails. The message they argue is chilling: be careful what you say, because if it offends someone powerful, you might be next. What makes Owens' involvement even more explosive is her decision to use the situation to frame a much larger conversation about the weaponization of the legal system, cancel culture, and the power imbalance between everyday creators and elite celebrities. In one segment of her podcast, Owens broke down the logic of the defamation filings and questioned the selective nature of the subpoenas. Why is it that people with a platform are silenced, while people with no voice are sued? It's backwards, it's cowardly. Meanwhile, her legal team is reportedly preparing a response of their own, possibly involving a motion to quash the subpoena or a countersuit based on harassment and abuse of process. Legal scholars have differing opinions on whether such a countersuit would be viable. Some believe Owens could make a strong case under anti-SLAPP strategic lawsuit against public participation laws, which exist to protect individuals from lawsuits designed to silence them. Others caution that given the complexity and high-profile nature of the case, the courtroom might become a stage more about spectacle than justice. Still, the timing of Owens' public response, coinciding with the news that a one-subscriber YouTuber had been subpoenaed, turned the entire narrative upside down. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the lawsuit. It was about the tactics being used to silence not just influencers and commentators, but even regular internet users with barely any audience. And that point wasn't lost on the online community. Creators, legal influencers, and even comedians began commenting on the situation. Some with humor, others with genuine concern. Memes circulated of Blake Lively suing the algorithm or subpoenaing the comment section. It became a full-blown cultural moment. But the jokes also revealed a creeping fear. No one was quite sure where the line was anymore. Was it still safe to comment on celebrity legal issues, or was everyone now at risk of legal retaliation? No matter how insignificant their reach, this blurred boundary between celebrity image control and legal overreach has created a tense atmosphere. For creators, those who cover entertainment news, court filings, and celebrity controversies have begun adapting their tone. Some now include legal disclaimers at the beginning of their videos. Others preface every opinion with phrases like allegedly, reportedly, or as per public documents, even when discussing widely reported facts. One of the more surprising developments in this climate of legal tension has been the rise of solidarity among creators. A number of prominent YouTubers, lawyers, and podcasters have begun organizing behind the scenes, sharing legal resources and collectively hiring attorneys in anticipation of further subpoenas. What started as isolated creators worried about individual exposure has evolved into a loosely connected coalition of digital voices, determined to protect their rights. And Candace Owens, love her or hate her, is taking on a central role in that resistance. In her latest video, she hinted at creating a legal fund for smaller creators being dragged into the lawsuit. If you've been subpoenaed by Blake Lively's lawyers, reach out. We will fight this, she stated. That offer was met with immediate reactions from those previously too afraid to speak out, creators who had removed videos or gone private out of fear of being the next target. The message is becoming clear. This lawsuit and the subpoenas surrounding it are not just about reputation management or isolated defamation claims. They are increasingly viewed as a test case for how the legal system will interact with content creators in the future. Interestingly, Blake Lively herself has remained silent, while her legal team has been relentless in its filings and motions. Lively has made no personal public statements about the growing controversy. That silence is now drawing criticism. Where once Lively was seen as a graceful private actress trying to protect her name, many now view her as a silent figurehead behind an aggressive legal campaign. And public perception matters. In the court of public opinion, silence can feel like complicity or worse, contempt. The fallout from this legal situation is now spilling into other spheres. Media watchdog groups are beginning to take interest. Digital rights organizations have started monitoring the case. Civil liberty nonprofits are publicly raising concerns about legal intimidation against digital creators. A case that started with alleged smears between two Hollywood figures has spiraled into a potentially precedent-setting clash between celebrity power and digital free speech. At the same time, fans of both Lively and Owens are becoming more entrenched in their positions. Team Lively argues that Owens and online commentators have deliberately twisted facts and deserve to be challenged legally. Team Owens insists that Lively's tactics are overreaching and deeply unfair to the broader digital community. The tone online is becoming more polarized. The middle ground, where nuance and caution might once have lived, is disappearing fast. And as both legal teams gear up for the next wave of filings, one question hangs over everything. How far is too far? Is subpoenaing someone with a single subscriber an act of desperation, or a deliberate move to signal power? Is Owens' aggressive response helping other creators, or is it further inflaming tensions? What we do know is that this story is now bigger than its original players. The spotlight is no longer just on Lively or Owens, it's on the legal system itself, and whether it can keep up with the world of content creation, opinion, and real-time reaction. By the time this chapter ends, it's likely the digital landscape will look very different, for better or worse. As the legal storm surrounding Blake Lively and Candace Owens intensified, a surprising ripple began moving across YouTube, TikTok, and podcasting communities. This ripple wasn't just outrage, it was resistance. The subpoenaing of a nearly unknown YouTuber was the tipping point, triggering a wave of solidarity across content creators of all sizes, genres, and ideological leanings. The message was clear: if one of us can be dragged into a high-stakes legal fight for expressing an opinion, then none of us are safe. It started slowly. A few mid-tier creators posted thoughtful videos dissecting the lawsuit and the broader implications, then came the avalanche. Legal commentary channels, media analysts, cultural critics, comedians, political commentators, even lifestyle influencers began speaking out. They weren't just criticizing Blake Lively's legal team, they were questioning the precedent this case could set for everyone who works in digital media. And they had every reason to be concerned. One creator with just 12,000 subscribers posted a 45-minute reaction video titled "I Could Be Next." The video quickly gained traction and was reshared by bigger accounts. Another, a lawyer-turned-podcaster, went viral with her calm yet firm legal breakdown of why the subpoenas were legally questionable and PR disasters in the making. The sentiment was shared widely. This wasn't just about one actress protecting her reputation. It had become about whether public commentary could still exist without the looming threat of being dragged into court. Many of these creators didn't even have videos specifically about Blake Lively. Some had merely referenced the case in a passing sentence or in the context of larger discussions around media law or celebrity culture. And yet they felt the chill. Emails began circulating among creators asking whether they should delete old videos, blur names, or remove entire topics from their platforms, but for others it had the opposite effect. If Lively's legal strategy was meant to scare people into silence, it ironically ignited a movement. In 1 week alone, over 150 creators from 500 subscriber channels to million-view powerhouses posted content questioning the fairness of using subpoenas as a public relations strategy. Hashtags like #CreatorRights, #SubpoenaCulture, and #SpeakNotSilence began trending on X and TikTok. One post that went viral read, "First it's the one subscriber YouTuber, tomorrow it's you. Stand up now or stay quiet forever." Ironically, Blake Lively, once admired for her relatively low profile and elegant distance from social media controversies, had now become a lightning rod for the very communities she had once avoided. The more her team moved forward in court, the more the public narrative seemed to slip out of their control. Commentators began referring to her as Hollywood's new cautionary tale, and the phrase Blake subpoena strategy started becoming shorthand for overzealous litigation. In creator circles, still, it's important to emphasize, not everyone agrees on the ethics or legality of the situation. There are still commentators, analysts, and fans who support Blake Lively's right to defend her name, especially in a digital era where misinformation spreads quickly and can permanently damage reputations. Some legal analysts pointed out that if creators speculate recklessly about private legal matters or make assertions without verifying facts, they can be liable, especially if that content is monetized. But the pushback wasn't necessarily about whether defamation is real. It was about scale, proportion, and intent. Was a single YouTuber with one subscriber truly posing a legal threat to a global celebrity? Or was the subpoena more about setting an example, reminding people that even a whisper against the powerful can come with consequences? Meanwhile, Candace Owens, now fully embedded in the narrative, continued her counteroffensive. She began highlighting small creators on her podcast, giving them a platform and calling out what she referred to as selective legal bullying. In one particular episode, she featured an interview with a content creator who had received a subpoena. The creator, speaking with a trembling voice, described receiving a thick envelope in the mail with language that felt designed to scare. Owens called it an absolute abuse of power. By now, the legal fight was being described not just as Blake Lively versus a few online voices, but as a growing culture war between traditional Hollywood and new media. The landscape had shifted. Where once actors could rely on publicists and media silence to manage scandal, now they faced a decentralized, unfiltered, and highly reactive digital ecosystem that doesn't easily back down. In this new ecosystem, lawsuits are no longer private battles, they are content. Legal documents are turned into TikToks. Courtroom sketches are analyzed like red carpet photos. Arguments from depositions become podcast episodes. And subpoenas, they become symbols of injustice, especially when they seem targeted at powerless people with no legal teams of their own. Some observers began wondering aloud, did Blake Lively's team underestimate the internet? Did they believe that because the subpoena was served quietly it would stay unnoticed? If so, they may have misjudged not only the digital age but the growing sense of unity among creators who are tired of being treated as expendable in elite legal fights. This movement also prompted some long-needed conversations. Platforms like YouTube and Spotify were called upon to clarify their policies on legal risk and creator protection. Should platforms warn users if they are mentioned in a lawsuit? Should they offer legal support to small creators? While no platform made official statements at first, the behind-the-scenes conversations were reportedly happening fast. Meanwhile, Blake's silence continued. No Instagram post, no statement, No interview, just filings and more filings. Some say that's a smart move, let the legal process speak. Others argue it's tone deaf. Public sentiment is changing fast, and in 2025 silence often speaks louder than any press release. And in the middle of all this, the original core of the lawsuit, the claims between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, has been somewhat sidelined. The focus has shifted. What began as a defamation battle between celebrities has evolved into a referendum on legal intimidation and digital speech. And more creators are joining the cause daily. Some are re-uploading videos they had previously taken down. Others are sharing each other's content, creating chains of support. And still more are bringing in legal experts to explain how to protect yourself if you're ever subpoenaed for content creation. One creator posted a striking message that was reshared thousands of times. If we let this go unchallenged, we don't deserve the freedom we've been fighting for. We're not just reacting to Blake Lively, we're standing up for what comes next. This movement, disorganized, diverse, and entirely grassroots, is now driving a broader reevaluation of how creators protect their speech, how celebrities manage scandal, and how legal systems handle public opinion in a digital world. What began as a high-stakes legal dispute between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has now transformed into something far more complicated and far more revealing. The decision by Lively's legal team to subpoena a YouTuber with just one subscriber sparked a level of outrage, confusion, and conversation that no one in her camp likely anticipated. Instead of silencing voices, it amplified them. Instead of controlling the narrative, it unraveled it. And right at the center of this unraveling is the bigger question: who gets to speak? And who decides what's acceptable commentary in the digital age? From small creators to media giants like Candace Owens, this legal situation has stirred a wider reckoning. The subpoenas became more than just legal tools, they became symbols of fear, control, and overreach. But in the backlash, something remarkable happened. Creators began organizing, supporting one another, and refusing to be intimidated. It was no longer about one lawsuit or one subpoena. It was about setting a boundary between healthy discourse and legal suppression. Blake Lively has yet to speak publicly on the matter, and perhaps that silence is strategic. Perhaps her team believes that letting the legal system do its job is the only way to avoid fueling more chaos. But the silence is being interpreted in many different ways. For some, it reinforces the narrative that she's disconnected from the realities of modern media. For others, it shows just how high the stakes are behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Candace Owens has turned her role into something larger than a defense. She has become a voice for creators, controversial no doubt, but undeniably effective in spotlighting what many feel is an imbalance in power. Her approach may not be conventional, but it resonates with those who feel targeted, silenced, or simply overwhelmed by the reach of celebrity-driven legal teams. The broader takeaway here is clear: the relationship between celebrities and digital media is changing. What was once a one-way conversation driven by mainstream press is now a two-way street, fueled by commentary, reaction, and real-time critique. And as the rules of that engagement continue to evolve, legal strategies rooted in intimidation or blanket suppression may backfire more than they succeed. No one knows how this case will ultimately play out in the courtroom, but in the court of public opinion, a precedent has already been set, and it may not be the one Blake Lively hoped for. This story is a reminder that in today's world, every voice counts, whether you have one subscriber or 1 million. And when the powerful try to control that, the response is often louder than they ever imagined.